fingertip warmers using 4.5mm double pointed needles cast on 32 stitches. The tail end here will now become needle 1. I've got 12 stitches here and 10 on needles 2 and 3. And all that we're doing is a knit 1, purl 1, rib. And we want 6 rounds of a knit 1, purl 1, rib. Once we have our 6 rounds of a knit 1, purl 1, rib, we can introduce 5mm double pointed needles and work the next round knitwise in stockinette stitch, and remembering that we're changing over to those 5mm double pointed needles. We want to work a total of 11 rounds in stockinette stitch, so this is round 1. I'm just finishing round 11 and we're nearly ready to start the next round, which will be a decrease round. This is what your work will look like so far. We'll call this next round, round 1, and we're going to basically knit 1 and then follow this repeat, which begins knit 2 together, knit 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and repeat that again, i.e. knit 2 together, knit 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and repeat again, knit 2 together, 1, 2, 3, our last needle now, 4, 5, 6, and end the repeat by knitting together and knitting the remaining stitches, of which there will be 5, and then that will complete the decrease and you will have 28 stitches now. Knit the next round, so that will be round 2, and join me for round 3. Round 3, begin by knitting 1 and then follow the repeat. The repeat begins knit 2 together and then knit 5, and repeat that sequence throughout the balance of the round. End round 3 by knitting 2 together and then working the remaining 4 stitches. Now round 4 is a plain knit round, so join me once this round's complete and we will do some further decreasing on round 5. Round 5 now, knit 1, knit 2 together and knit 4. Continue that repeat throughout the remainder of the round. Round 5 ends by knitting 2 together and knitting 3. Round 7 we begin by knitting 1 and then the repeat is knit 2 together and knit 3. And we're getting fewer and fewer stitches now, so I'm going to reorganise my work as I complete this round so that I've got 8 stitches over 2 needles. And you end this round by knitting 2. So we've got 16 stitches now. The next 2 rounds, i.e. round 8 and 9, we're going to knit 2 together throughout. Get an embroidery needle, snip your yarn and leave a long tail, and we're going to draw the yarn through the remaining 4 stitches. What I might do is go through that first couple of stitches there, and then ensuring it looks good from the outside, I will draw all of these stitches in and secure from the inside. So as I draw the stitches in, I'm just making sure from the outside that it's looking good. So with a crochet hook I've pulled through a loop and then pulled through the yarn, and I'm going to create a series of chains. I think 8 will do it, and then pull through, and then all I'm going to do is fold it back on itself and secure again with our embroidery needle from the inside. Once that loop has been secured, this is what it looks like. We can now get on and decorate our fingertip warmer. We're going to create the snout now, so using the right colourway and a 5mm crochet hook, we're going to create a magic circle. Let me show you that again. So you're wrapping the yarn around and pulling that through, and then the loop that you create, you're steadying the circle by pulling that through like that. Now we're going to do 6 single crochets into this magic circle, so that's 1, and note that in the UK this would be a double crochet. 3, 4, 5, 6. Now gently encourage that to form a circle by pulling very gently. I'll reorganise my yarn again. And to finish this first round, I'm going to enter what I see as the first stitch, first chain, and I'm going to create a slip stitch like so. So round 1, we're going to, into every single crochet, we're going to create 2. So that would be 1. And what I do is, that's my first stitch, I just put a marker onto it, just so I know. So that's 1, that's 2. Into the next stitch, 1 single crochet, 2 single crochets. So don't forget, in the UK these are known as double crochets. So that's 1, and then by the time we've worked round this, we should have 12 stitches. So into our last stitch, look, that's our final increase. So we now have 12 single crochets, and we're ready, look, to work into our first stitch. Now round 2, we're going to increase to 18 stitches, so we're going to single crochet the first stitch, that's 1, and again I'm going to move my marker because I can't count. Right, that's 1, and then into the second stitch we're going to work 2 single crochets, 1, 2, and repeat that sequence again. So that's 1 single crochet, the next stitch 2 single crochets, 1, 2. Now that we have our 18 stitches, we can simply work 4 further rounds. I'm coming to the end of round 4. I'm going to complete the round by doing a slip stitch into the beginning stitch here. Once you've completed your slip stitch there, complete 1 chain and then line up your stitches for joining together. So we're going to enter through these 2 stitches like so, and we're going to join them with a single crochet, and by the time we've completed to the end we will have 9 single crochet stitches. So I'm going to swap to a 4mm needle and do 1 chain and turn the work and place it into position along the edge of our cast on edge of our fingertip warmer, and then going into the very edge look of both pieces of work I am going to join them together, this time with a chain stitch or slip stitch. So that would be 1, 2, so with little running stitches just simply go into the edge look here of your snout through to the back of the work, and without pulling too tightly, just gently stitch into position with a little running stitch. In our antler colourway, and using a 4mm crochet hook, so note that that's deliberately smaller, we're going to create the antlers now. So create your slip knot and then make 8 chains, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And now into the first of those chains we're going to make 4 single crochets, and note that's double crochet if you're in the UK. So that's 2, 3, 4. Now I'm just going to mark my first stitch, 1, 2, 3, 4, like so, because I just find that that makes life easier if I identify it. Now carry on and create into each chain single crochet stitches. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and after your 5th stitch we've got 1 remaining stitch which we do 2 single crochets into for the moment, and what we're going to do is carry on working the same side of the work. Now I'm going to call this row 1, and on the written instructions that you can purchase from my website it refers to row 1 now. So into the same stitch we want 2 more single crochets, so in effect we have 4 in total there. So into the next 2 stitches, so that's the first one, we're just going to single crochet. So that's 1, following stitch, again a single crochet. Now 2 chains, 1, 2, and then into the next 3 stitches just a single crochet stitch. That's 1, 2, 3, and after completing that set of 3 go into that very first stitch, look, that I've decided to mark, and do a single crochet. And I like to replace my marker. So we're creating 3 single crochets into one stitch. So that's 1, 2, 3. Now into the next stitch, repeat that again. So we're doing 3 single crochets. 1, 2, 3. So into the next 4 stitches, just single crochet along. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 2 chains, and again single crochet 3 times. 1, 2, 3. Now into the next stitch, create 2 single crochets into it. 1, 2. That just allows us to turn the corner. Repeat that again. So into this stitch, 2 single crochets. 1, 2. Into the next 3 stitches, we're just going to again single crochet along. So that's 1, 2, 3. And now into that 2 chain space, do a slip stitch. And now into this space we can create our popcorn. So that's 3 chains, yarn around the hook twice, pulling through once, twice, and note I'm leaving the stitches on the hook. So again, yarn around the hook, into the 2 chain space, pull through once, twice. We've got 3 stitches. Again, yarn around the hook twice, into the space, pull through once and twice. We have 4 stitches on our hook. Pull the yarn through, secure with a slip stitch. Now 3 chains, 1, 2, 3, and a slip stitch into that 2 chain space. 1 popcorn completed. Now we're going to turn to the reverse side of the work and go into the opposite 2 chain space. Whoops. And I'm going to go into that space and create a slip stitch first, and then I'm going to turn the work to the right side and just pull the yarn through, ready to create a popcorn on the opposite side, on the right side of the work. So to do that, remember it's 3 chains, 1, 2, 3, yarn around the hook twice and into the space there, pull through once, pull through twice, 2 stitches on the hook, create another into the space. Actually, have I gone into the space properly? Yeah. So yarn around the hook twice, into the space, pull through once, pull through twice. One more time, yarn around the hook twice, into the space, pulling through twice. Once you have those 4 stitches, gather them all in and secure with a slip stitch. Now 3 chains, slip stitch into the 2 chain space like so. We now have 2 completed popcorns, and the marker shows that this is the top of our antler. So turn the work and fold in half, and going through both sets of spaces, we're going to join the sides together again with a slip stitch, Actually, I might do that with a single crochet, make my life a bit easier. And then we're going to marry the stitches of each side and join them together. And we're doing this with a single crochet. And join the work, and once you reach the bottom of the antler, that will be your antler completed, and you can go on to create antler number 2. So I'm just encouraging the side to open out a bit so I can insert the antler. I get it into position and just secure. Next, position the eyes and get those sewn into place. With your nose colour, create a magic circle. Secure it with a slip stitch, and then we're going to work 6 single crochets, which in the UK are known as double crochets, into that ring. Now I'm using a 5mm hook for the nose, so that's 6 single crochets. Gently pull your ring so that there's no hole anymore, and into the first stitch we're going to seal and join our ring with a slip stitch. Right, next, into the next stitch, single crochet. So that's stitch 1, and just for my reference I like to know my first stitch, so I'm going to mark it with a hair grip. Into the next stitch do 2 single crochets, so we're increasing by 1. Single crochet into the next stitch, that's 1, and again single crochet into the next stitch, that's 2. Now into the next stitch we're going to increase 1 by working 2 stitches into the next stitch, into the last stitch, single crochet. Work rounds 3 and 4 in single crochet, ensuring that you have 8 stitches. I'm coming to the end of round 4 here. The next round is going to be a decrease round, so we're going to decrease by inserting our yarn into the next 2 stitches and then pulling through, so that's going to work those 2 stitches together. So repeat that another 3 times. So into the next 2 stitches and pull through, and again into the next 2 stitches and pull through, and then for our last decrease, and pull through. And then here I'm just going to go through both layers and just do a single crochet, and that will then get stitched onto our little Rudolph's face. Stitch your nose into position and really make sure that you're going right through all the fabric. You really want to make sure that he's not going to fall off. Now from the cast on edge of your little fingertip warmer at the back, we are just selecting 16 stitches and slipping them onto a 5mm double pointed needle. Now I've had to use this stitch holder to begin with and then gradually stretch the stitches onto the double pointed needle because the edge is quite tight. So that's all ready. I'll be making the left glove. This is needle 1. I'm going to re-identify needle 1 with a marker to save any confusion. And you want to line up needle 1 with the stitches from your little glove flap, and all we're doing is basically, it's a bit like a 3-needle bind off, but we're not binding off, we're just knitting the stitches together. So we're going through both sets of stitches, and that's getting caught, so that's not very good, is it? But we're going through, work through both the sets of stitches and then slip them off. So that's one. And you'll find that the stitches from the flap will be a bit tight, so just persevere. And be very careful not to lose any stitches. And you work along all those stitches until the flap is fused with the main glove. So down to the last 2 stitches. So now our little flap is fused into position there. We can turn the work and just carry on knitting the stitches from needle 2. Now to finish the tops of the gloves, using 4.5mm double pointed needles now, we're going to do a knit 1 purl 1 rib for 6 rounds and then cast off, and that will be your Rudolph Christmas glove finished. Full written instructions to this video guide can be purchased from my website thecastingoncouch.com.